So, welcome to a walk in the park with animal friends, with me, Patricia and Skye, this crazy German Shorthaired Pointer here. Today, we are welcoming Fee from Birmingham Dogs Home. Welcome, Fee.
Thank you for having me, Patricia.
Oh,
nice
no
to be
problem
here.
at all. And who else have we got here with you?
We've got my two rescues. This is Hope and this is Joy.
Hope and Joy. Hello, Hope. Hello, Joy. What we're going to do, though, is I think we're just going to pop Skye outside for this one so that Hope and Joy can relax a bit more. So off you go, Skye. We'll see you in a little while, okay? What's Rachel got? Go on. Good girl. So thanks for joining us, Sophie. I know you've travelled a long way to come here today.
No, pleasure.
But I'm so pleased that you came to talk to us because we've worked with Birmingham Dogs Home for quite a while now and we absolutely adore what you do.
Thank you.
So, but I want to share that with everybody that's listening. So do you want to talk us through some of the things that, well, what is Birmingham Dogs Home? What do you do? How long have you been around? But also what makes you different?
Well, Birmingham Dogs Home is really part of the fabric of the Midlands, really. As a charity, we've been around for over 130 years now. So we're a very well-known, well-loved charity in the region. And we've come a long way since humble beginnings. So we originally had much smaller kennels in the city centre and lots of volunteers, and our founder put some money in just to help get stray dogs off the streets initially. But over generations and decades, we've evolved, and as a charity, we've responded to the environment around us. So we've been around through world wars, been around through economic depressions, and the intake of the dogs that are needed that have come into the Dogs Home during that time has fluctuated. So, for example, when all of the high rises in Birmingham went up and the slums were razed to the ground, we had an influx of dogs because people couldn't have dogs in the high rise flats. So it's really interesting looking at the figures over time to see how we've responded to the environment around us. Now we're lucky to have two amazing centres. We've got one near Solihull, where we can look after 120 dogs, and another near Wolverhampton, where we can look after nearly 100 dogs there as well. So they're purpose-built facilities, and we're very lucky to be where we are.
Yeah, I mean, they're amazing facilities. I've had the pleasure of coming to visit you at the Solihull one. And as I said earlier, I absolutely love what you do. And we've been involved in one of the projects helping to get out some of the vet clinic that you have put together. But that's one of the things I love about Birmingham Dogs Home. As I said earlier, you're very forward thinking and you're looking at ways as a charity how to become self-sufficient so that you've got other income streams.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest costs for us as a rescue centre is veterinary care. So we work with local authorities, which means that we have dog wardens bringing in dogs who are stray or abandoned dogs. So some charities will just take dogs that are relinquished by owners. So by having stray dogs that come in through the local authority channel, it does mean that a lot of the dogs are neglected, they might have been mistreated in some way, and they have more medical conditions basically, so they need more treatment, more looking after. And so as the number of dogs increased and the need for medical care increased, our costs kept going up and up and up, and it's just not sustainable. No. Vet costs can be, astronomical. We can spend, £8,000 to £10,000 on one dog. So that's why we made it part of our strategic plan that we were going to set up our own vet clinic, which Animal Friends so kindly helped us to fund. So we're very lucky. We've got beautiful consultation rooms. We've got the X-ray room, which you funded all the equipment for. We've got a theatre, we've got a dental room, and it's transformed the way we work with our dogs.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, as I said, I had the chance to go and have a look around it, and it's just brilliant. So, Fee, do you want to tell us a bit more about what you do at Birmingham Dogs Home, your role, and what does that entail? Sure. No pun intended.
Oh, I like a pun. That's what my job's all about. So I'm head of fundraising and communications. So it costs us nearly £2.5 million to operate every year. We look after nearly 2,000 dogs with all the medical costs, which we've talked about, and all the costs of running 2 centres and the whole rehoming process. And we don't receive any government funding at all. So fundraising is absolutely vital to the operation of the centres. So I work with a small team and we fundraise from businesses like yourselves. We apply for grants, we fundraise in the community, we run great events, dog shows, of course.
Yep.
And we work really hard to bring in income from lots of different streams so that we can fund the work of Birmingham Dogs Home.
Wonderful. And so I know that you do the fundraising, and we've talked around the home in general, but the people that are working with the dogs every day. I mean, I think when I came up and did the day with you guys, I did a huge amount of steps, but I believe that's nowhere near what your colleagues get to do in a day, looking after the dogs, engaging with them, walking, feeding.
Absolutely.
What does it, and I suppose there's no typical day, but what would a day entail for a colleague like that at Birmingham Dogs Home?
Our canine carers are amazing. They work so hard. I have helped them in the kennels for about 3 days. That's about all I can manage to do. So a typical day is first thing in the morning, they'll let all of the dogs out from their kennels into their outside runs because the kennels are split into 2 parts. Then there's a lot of kennel cleaning. So we have 4 blocks. Each block has 30 kennels and they're all cleaned inside and out thoroughly every single morning. Then all of the dogs are fed, and then we'll go through exercising all the dogs, taking them out for walks. There's also preparation of medication. So there's a lot of work goes into that each day. And then each dog goes through an assessment process. So when they first come into us, they're assessed. Then they'll be assessed again at regular intervals, and we'll be checking for, as well as their health and medical conditions, we'll be checking for their behaviour as well. So depending on how they are in different situations, they'll then have a programme of training and enrichment, and we just try to do as many things as we can throughout the course of their day, and to do that consistently throughout the week so that they settle, so they become less anxious, and they start to have sort of more training and calm down so that they're ready for their new homes. So the canine carers do a phenomenal job. They work very hard. Oh, and then the dogs go for another walk again. Yep. So one of the first things that I did as a fundraiser was I set a challenge when we were in lockdown, and everybody only had one opportunity to get out and about.
I remember those days.
Yes, absolutely. We thought we'd set a daily challenge for people, and the challenge was to walk as many steps as a Birmingham Dogs Home canine carer.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was a hard challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We had different levels, and the top level was canine carer.
Yeah. It's a lovely way to get people involved and understand what it takes on a daily basis to run a home of that size. Do you see any more of any one particular breed coming into the centre?
I think it goes in phases, really. So at the moment, but yeah, it changes, over the course of a year. But at the moment, we have Shar-Peis, Chow Chows, Staffordshire Bull Terriers and Crosses. We have Jack Russells, Akitas. Yeah. So there's a wide range. You've also got Bulldogs and XL Bullies as well. So there's quite a lot of big dogs with us at the moment, but it changes. So there isn't a typical dog, but at the moment we seem to be having more larger dogs.
Okay, that's really interesting, because Skye's a big dog, and being a big dog owner, the challenges that come with having a bigger dog. Even, when Skye's as daft as anything. So she's very bouncy, but she's really soft and gentle. And, we can be out on a walk and you can see small dog owners almost run and pick them up and run away with them going, no, your dog can't play with mine, you'll break it. And I'm like, but she's really gentle. So I do get some of the challenges with big dogs.
I think that's possibly why we have so many big dogs at the moment, is I think during lockdown people, obviously, dog popularity soared, and a lot of people went out to get dogs through various channels. They might have been inexperienced, but potentially not looking into what each breed needs. And all dogs are so different, and the larger dogs do need such a huge commitment in terms of exercise and time. And I think that's proved to be a challenge for a lot of people, which is why the larger dogs that we're seeing now tend to be around sort of 12 to 18 months old. They're no longer those cute little puppies. They're now boisterous teenagers who need a lot of work.
Huge amount of training, and it's constant as well. So you touched on the pet boom then. So at that point, I'm assuming from a rescue perspective, everybody wanted a dog or a cat, and they wanted to fill their lives with the love that you can get from pets. I'm sure you've got some stats there, Fee. So we did talk about this earlier. Neither of us are great at keeping stats in our head. So Fee came prepared with some stats. But do you want to take us through a bit of the kind of picture from that pet boom and what it looked like to then people going back to work and where we are today with the cost of living crisis? I mean, it's like night and day in those situations. Yeah,
it was sort of unprecedented, really. I don't think we realised that this was how people would be affected during lockdown. But in the UK, we've got 9.6 million dogs, and now 26% of households have a dog, which is a large number. And we found that she's licking my water.
We'll get some. Can you grab some water for her? Just the bowl's just over there. Yeah, sorry, Fee, carry on. Dogs' needs always come first, right?
Absolutely.
Lovely, thank you.
There we are. Good girl.
Here you go, darling. Thirsty?
Some water. What's this? Good girl.
She's like, no, actually, Mum, I only wanted the water out of your mug.
That's right. So, yes, the number of people having dogs in the UK absolutely soared. And because there was that demand, less scrupulous breeders, let's say, made the most of that opportunity. And so dogs were being bred in conditions which weren't good for their welfare. We also saw a spike in dogs being imported into the country that shouldn't have been, because they'd perhaps been removed too early from their mother. And so it was all a bit of a perfect storm, really, in terms of you could see ahead what was going to happen, because there were inexperienced owners. People weren't able to socialise their dogs or train them, of course, because we were all under those restrictions. Dogs that had been removed too early from the litter. And then on top of that, we experienced an influx of dogs who had medical conditions which were quite severe. And again, that's down to that poor breeding. So, breeding has to be done in a way where people actually know how to do it and know how to select the right partners. And when it's just done purely for profit, all of that goes out the window. So we ended up with lots of the flat-faced brachycephalic dogs who had to have surgery for their breathing, quite a lot of dogs with heart conditions because of that. Dogs with really bad skin conditions like bulldogs, because of thoughtless breeding, really, not thinking about the welfare and the comfort of that dog in the future. So that was kind of the first wave that we saw as a result of that early dog ownership through lockdown.
It was a lucrative business for those breeders, because prices for pets, because the demand was so great, shot through the roof. So it just encouraged more unscrupulous people to get into that scene. and now we're paying the price for it, right? So we saw almost, not quite, but rescue centres emptying because people wanted to rehome dogs and wanted them as part of their lives. And then as we started to get back to normality and people were starting to go back to work, we then started to see an uplift in dogs being surrendered. But where are we now with everything else that we've got to contend with from an economic position?
Well, it goes on. We went from kennels which were emptier because people wanted to have dogs to kennels which were fuller because we were getting the dogs which were poorly, that people couldn't look after anymore. And, when owners, trustingly bought these lovely puppies, they really didn't know what they were taking on in some cases in terms of their medical conditions. And as we've touched on already, then we started getting the dogs in which needed more exercise and had grown out of that puppy stage. And now with the cost of living crisis, which we find ourselves in, it's that cost of keeping dogs. I mean, there's the medical costs, there's insurance, there's food, there's boarding if you go away, there's dog walking if you go to work. There's such a huge financial commitment. So we're seeing a lot more dogs that are being brought in through the local authority dog wardens daily. So those numbers have risen hugely. We're also getting dramatically more calls from people who want to relinquish their dogs. So in November and December, we were having about 300 calls a month. In January, February, March to date, over 700 calls a month from people saying, we can't keep our dog anymore. Can you have our dog from us? And 700 calls a month, we have 200 kennels. So we can't take them all. And we do take the local authority stray and abandoned dogs. So we haven't got room for those dogs that people want to relinquish. So it's a crazy cycle. We've been full for a long time now.
And is it a consistent theme of I can't afford to feed my dog or I can't afford to treat my dog? Are they some of the key reasons why people are having to surrender, or is there something else underlying?
Those are very much what we hear a lot. We also hear that people are suffering with their mental health. So they feel that they can't look after a dog anymore. Also people that are unable to keep the dog because they're unable to stay in their accommodation. As we know, a lot of rental properties won't allow dogs. So also families who are no longer together. So I think charities, we're at the front line, as it were, and we reflect what's going on in society around us. So everything that's impacting us as humans and people, all those things that add up, all those pressures. And it's the pets who are part of that and part of that breakdown, whatever it might be. And that's why rescue centres are there and are always needed. Yeah.
And on that, Fee, I honestly, hats off to everybody working in this sector. I honestly, I don't know how you do it when you see some of the cases that I've seen, come through the door where, that animal is really so poorly or has been mistreated, or even just watching a family that love them so much, but they're having to part because of circumstances, beyond their reach. But how do you and the team cope with that? I know vets, and I talked to Sam Webster from Joy around the whole compassion fatigue thing, but how do you do it? How do you protect your mental health at the same time? It must be exhausting.
It's an emotionally challenging environment to work in. The canine carers are amazing. They are seeing, at first hand, day in, day out, the dogs that come into our intake block. And, it's quite distressing to see the state that they're in. and then the joy is seeing how they improve and the transformation and how these dogs learn to trust again and how they are on their journey of recovery mentally and physically. So that's the payoff. It can be upsetting. Not every dog makes it through. And I think when you work in rescue, you have to go in with your eyes open because it's lovely to have a happy ending. And that's what I try to share in a positive way as much as I can in my role. But you also have to balance that with the realities. And we try as a charity not to distress people too much in terms of the visual images that we share or the stories that we share. But we will cherry pick the ones that we think it's important to share just so people can understand the challenges that we're facing. Personally, myself, I was quite upset about a dog that I fostered. Yeah. So I first fostered a very lovely lurcher cross called Scruffy. And when he was found, he was in such a state, he'd got lacerated legs. He was so emaciated, and he was actually found in a sort of refuse area. And he seemed to be sort of just trying to survive by picking his way through skips. It was so sad. And I was asked if I could foster him because I have nervous dogs. So I'm used to nervous dogs. And when he came into our family home, he obviously hadn't been in a home before. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't know what a door was, let alone a washing machine. And it was really, really lovely to see him come out of his shell and start to be cheeky and recover. The cone came off, the plaster cast came off his legs. He was running around the garden with his toy, throwing it in the air. So that was lovely. And then he was adopted by a very lovely couple who'd recently retired, and they'd got a retired greyhound called Dory. So he's now got a new home. He's got a sister to play with, and he's got a happy ending. But that journey was very emotional, and I only had him for about 3 or 4 weeks. But it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to foster. I just don't know if I could deal with that kind of heartbreak every time. I know it's a happy story because they're going on for their forever home, but I'd be like, I'd end up filling my house with about 25 dogs, I reckon.
Yeah, they did have to mop me up in the office a little bit afterwards, after I waved goodbye.
Oh, I can imagine. But it's so lovely. It's such a happy ending. I mean, that was a lovely one, but I'm sure there's ones that you have at the moment that have been in for quite a long time. We did a campaign a couple of years ago, I think, not long after I joined Animal Friends, and we were looking at the long-standing animals that had been in a rescue centre and the impact that it has on them. And there was a particular dog called Cinderella, and they'd been in the rescue for, I think it was nearly 3 years. And off the back of the campaign, they actually found their forever home, which was absolutely lovely. But have you got some long-standing residents in? What's the impact on the dog over that time?
Yes, unfortunately we do. And we're a rescue centre, we're a kennels. So it's, even though it's a lovely environment as a rescue centre, it's not the same as a home. And the dogs are in lovely kennels, but they are kennels. They get out and about twice a day, but it's not enough really. So we really don't want them to stay there too long. And I'd say on average it's sort of 2 to 3 months would be the average time that a dog's with us. Some fly out, the cute fluffy ones, off they go. Some are just overlooked constantly. Sometimes people are put off because of their medical conditions and knowing that they're going to have to make that commitment, financially and regular treatment for them. So some of those are long stayers with us. Others might be breeds which are harder to find homes for just because of the experience that you need with them. So we're doing a little campaign ourselves at the moment. We're calling them our patient pooches, those ones who've been with us for too long. So we have Dakota, who's a Nikita. She's been with us for, I think it's 11 months now. We've got Winnie, who's a Staffy. She's been with us for over a year. There are different reasons for each dog. We did have a recent success story. We had Max, a Springer Spaniel, who'd been with us for 18 months, who looked absolutely adorable when people came to see him in his kennel. And nobody could understand why he'd been there for so long. But Max liked to escape. So
escape artist,
a real escape artist. So he had gone to a couple of homes and come back again, silly old Max, but he has actually found his forever home now, and he has settled in an environment where he's able to roam because they've got lots of space. So,
lovely.
So we do like to believe that there is a home for every dog, and there is the right family out there, but sometimes they're just with us for too long. So it's part of what I do with communications, trying to pick out those stories and highlight the dogs that we really want to get homes for, and highlight all the positives as well. Yeah, there'll be challenges, but I think you have to be patient, and you have to go into it with the real commitment, but they can be so rewarding. It takes time, but you get so much back. And some of our long stayers really need that opportunity, which is what we're trying to promote at the moment.
So on that rehoming process, obviously it'd be amazing if you had loads of families that want to come in and rehome all of the wonderful dogs that you have at Birmingham Dogs Home. But what does that rehoming process look like? What are the kind of key tips that you would give people? I mean, you said there, poor Max had been returned a couple of times because he was an escape artist. What are the key things to really help for that not to happen? Where if somebody, so say I was thinking about having if I wasn't a dog owner already, or I do have one, but she's pretty chilled, although Skye's not. What would that advice be about coming in to look at rehoming?
I think it's important not to come in with an idea of the dog that you want in your mind initially, which is very hard because we all do. But people tend to think, I want a particular type of breed. And I think it's better when you're looking at rescue to be more open-minded and think less about the breed, less about the name of the dog, less about their how they seem to be in the kennels, but more about your commitment, what you were able to do, more about what you actually want from a dog. Do you really want to be getting up at the crack of dawn and having a long walk for a couple of hours, and then doing the same at lunchtime, etc. Or do you actually want one that's going to just be pretty chilled and be on your lap? And so we have all of these different sorts of dogs. So I think people need to think about what it is that they actually want to get out of it. They also need to plan for that early stage, because it's not going to instantly work. I mean, anybody who's had a puppy knows this. It's not instantly happy days. So it's going to take time, and particularly with rescue dogs, they're more nervous and they're more anxious and they're more stressed because of what they've gone through before. So it's going to take time. Hope here, who I've brought with me, she wouldn't come out of our very small utility area for a long time. And then she eventually made it into the kitchen, and now she's, 6 years on, ruling the house. But it takes time, and she's still a nervous dog, and she's learnt to be nervous. So I think people just need to, not to say manage their expectations. I just think they need to be a bit more realistic about how long it will take.
Because it's a misconception, right? Saying, because I know certainly when we went to rescue Charlie, my mum's dog, I think we were all under the impression that because he was an older dog, he would already be trained and he would just be a lot easier, and, you know, that recall and stuff like that. And, you know, even over the first month, it was kind of touch and go, because Mum was like, oh, I'm not sure I can cope. And we were like, okay, let's work through this and see if we can settle him down and get him used to it. But you're right, it takes time. And do you think that is a key misconception from people, that, well, they're obviously they're older, it's not gonna be like bringing in a new puppy?
Yeah, it's there are challenges at any age, really. You know, puppies are a lot of hard work. You need eyes in the back of your head, and you need to have moppable floors. Dogs that have perhaps been in, you know, multiple families before, potentially, or who have been fending for themselves on the streets, they come with another whole set of behaviours that they have learnt to survive in those situations. So it takes time. We support adopters after they've had their dogs. We've got information about sort of settling dogs in, and then we have behaviourists who can give ongoing support and guidance for people. What we really don't want is dogs to be returned quickly, you know, within the first, sometimes they come back within the first day.
Oh, really?
But, you know, within the first week or within the first month, this is still really early stages. So, you know, you have to keep going, really. I'm making it sound as though it's like an uphill battle. I mean, you get rewarded so much,
of course,
when they are happy to see you, when they you see them running around in the fields, playing, enjoying themselves. It's wonderful, and that's what dog ownership should be about. But I think, you know, for all dogs, but rescue dogs in particular, you just need to know that you need to be patient and take your time. And it's so difficult when you have young families where the children are excited, but you know, you just need to plan it together as a family.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think Joy and Hope can hear Skye running around outside in the background. But you're absolutely right. Dogs are so rewarding. So, you know, I know when we looked at Skye as a German Shorthair Pointer, I knew exactly what I was getting myself into. Yeah. They are kind of crazy, but they're incredibly Velcro and very loving. So she always wants to be by my side. And, you know, whether you're saying, oh, they're happy to see you, she has that level of excitement if I pop out to put something in the bin as if I've been gone for 5 days. She's so sweet like that. But, you know, she's my constant companion. She's always with me. And yeah, you can get so much from dogs. But yeah, I mean, the work you guys do is fantastic. I know this is going to be a tough question, but what is your favourite thing about working at Birmingham Dogs Home?
Well, I've been a fundraiser all my life, my professional life. So I always was drawn to working for not-for-profit, but I've also been a huge animal lover.
Yes.
So I pestered my parents as a little girl until I finally got a dog. I was that little girl that walked around with the empty collar and lead.
Love it.
Yeah,
yep.
One of those. So for me, Birmingham Dogs Home is combining everything that I love about my job, but also my passion for dogs. So I'm very fortunate in that way. But Birmingham Dogs Home in particular, it's an amazing team. We're all in it together. We've all got our different skills. We've all got different things that we bring with us every day to try and make it all work. We've all got, you know, the dogs at the centre of everything that we do. And so we work as a team. That we've got amazing centre managers who live on site, so they live and breathe it 24/7. Amazing canine carers who are there, you know, whatever the weather, out and about walking those dogs. Got a fabulous vet team that supports us all. All the rehoming team, I mean, they have a really hard job on the front line as people are coming in and they're talking to people that either want to relinquish a dog or adopt a dog. So we're we all have to sort of really gel together and be there for each other. And some days are tough, and it's being part of a team that gets you through that and makes it a really rewarding place to work.
Oh, amazing. So I understand like there's this struggle across the UK. So Birmingham Dogs Home is one example of an influx of pets being surrendered, purses tightening, so maybe not as much fundraising available as before. People are struggling to feed their pets, and so, but also as well, I believe from COVID has actually helped hit your volunteer levels as well. So do you have as many volunteers as you did previously?
No, we don't. We have some staunch volunteers who have been with us for a long time, and their support is hugely valued. We also have teams that come in from businesses who support us, which is great. I think people have found it a struggle to make that regular commitment, which is understandable because they have, we've got many pools on our time, but also, when you're thinking about money and work, then you don't have as much time that you can actually, devote for free. So we've got a volunteering programme, but it's sort of a little bit more low key than we'd like it to be at the moment. But it's challenging times for all charities. So we're not alone in finding that that's the case. So
if there is somebody in the Solihull or Wolverhampton area, how do they get in touch to ask you what you need from a volunteer programme?
There's information on our website, and then once they've expressed an interest in this, there's different things you can do as a volunteer. It's not just dog walking. Yeah. There's lots of other things to do. Then they'll be put in a group, and then they'll go through an induction process. So it's there's a sort of stages of training that people will go through, and there are different types of dogs, so people need to get used to how they would work with different types of jobs, and then there are different roles to do as well, and different people have different commitment levels, different amounts of time that they can commit. So it's quite complex, really, working with a volunteer workforce to make sure that they're able to fit in with what we need operationally, but also that they have the training that they need, that safety has to be paramount, of course. Yeah. And to ensure that they get a good experience as well, because I volunteer for another organisation, we all volunteer for different reasons, and you want to make sure that people are getting what they want from that, be that, giving something back to the community, or having retired and want to give your skills that you feel that you can commit, and sometimes people want to do it just to be part of a sort of new group and a social group. So you have to be very aware that there's lots of sort of mental health things going on. So you just have to make sure that as you induct and train and take your volunteers through that process, that there's a whole sort of support network there to ensure that they're enjoying it as much as we're getting some support from them as well. Yeah.
So it's not just about the volunteers. Obviously, anything financial is I'm sure more than welcome. But even things like sharing social posts, people can get involved in that way to highlight the great work that you and other rescue charities are doing. The ones that are in for a longer time. I know you said that you've got that campaign running at the moment to highlight their plight as well. So even just as simple as sharing on social media. Any other things that you can think off the top of your head that people could do to help if they were sitting in their on their sofa listening to this, or in the car going, actually, I love what this charity stands for. How else could I help? Have you got any other thoughts?
Oh, there's lots of ways people can help us. So as you say, social media is great. So we're posting daily about dogs who are currently looking for new homes. So sharing their stories is great. We're always doing creative fundraising campaigns, be it, virtual walking events or challenge events. So we've got a whole calendar of interesting things that people can join in. Off the top of my head, I can think of somebody who's doing a volcano climb for us.
Amazing.
And a wing walk. That's 2 different people.
Love it.
And the usual 10Ks and half marathons. So lots of fun things like that for people to join in. We have dog shows.
Yep.
Obviously, that's got to be the number one thing for us. So that's a great way for the local community to come along and show their support just by having fun on the day and taking part in our events as well. So there's lots of different things that people can do just to be it donating regularly and making that commitment to sponsor a dog, or by participating in fun things and one-off things, or as a company doing a team challenge, something like that. So it all adds up.
Love it. Fee, I could absolutely talk to you for weeks and weeks and weeks, but I know that you've got an incredibly important job to go back and do. So I just wanted to thank you for coming along today. It's been an absolute pleasure understanding more about Birmingham Dogs Home, sharing your mission with all the listeners. So thank you so much for coming in, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thank you, Patricia. Thanks for all your support as well at Animal Friends.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.